How's it going, Riv Communities? We are Tony and Danielle, and we help lead a Riv community in West Lansing. And today we are excited to be able to bring you this content where we're going to be really talking about the idea of rest versus escapism. And we wanted to talk about this content because this is something that, in our marriage, this is something we talk about for one another. It's something that we help each other with, but we've also kind of seen different ways that our lives change, and it kind of causes us to pursue escapism more than rest in certain areas. And we kind of thought we've had experiences with this with other people, other followers of Jesus that we know and that are in our community. And so we thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about in a Riff community together. So what we want to do with this content today is we really want to do three things regarding this topic of rest versus escapism. First, we want to define some terms, right? We want to just know what we're talking about and have a clear foundation of what we mean when we say those things. So first, we're just going to define what we mean. After we do that, we would really like you to just use some discernment about your own life, where you are regarding this topic of rest versus escapism, kind of things that you are doing right now, and maybe some ways that you want to grow in this. And then finally, we're going to make some decisions in your Riv community. It'd be great if you and your fellow members just started thinking about and making decisions about pursuing health and wellness when it comes to your spiritual life, your physical life, and your emotional life together.
Yeah, so just to kind of define, like, what is rest? Rest is just a ceasing of work. It's a chance to refresh yourself or recover strength. And it's helpful for us to have a definition for it, because a challenge when we're trying to discern whether something's actually restful or not is to have some questions, maybe to ask, like do I feel rested after I do this or that activity, or after going without this for a set of like a period of time, how do I feel? Do I feel kind of in need or exhausted? Does this activity increase my love for God or others? And then kind of on the flip side of that, but not too different, is this idea of escapism being just the tendency to seek distraction or relief from unpleasant realities. And I think that a lot of times when we're experiencing anxiety or stress or just difficult circumstances, it's easy to just want to escape and go to something that maybe looks like rest, but is actually just a really cheap substitute. I kind of think of like a nourishing meal being real rest for your body, and then like McDonald's, like junk food, is kind of that escapism. Like it's just a quick fix, and it maybe it fills you up for a minute, but it doesn't really leave you like fulfilled at the soul level.
Right. You often long-term feel worse.
Yeah.
Where I think escapism can be reactive, something we're doing in the moment, where rest is something that we actually plan and we think about, and we really prioritize. And I think too, we do see this concept of rest in the scriptures. It's in the Old Testament and it's in the New Testament. We see God himself, after he creates everything, on the seventh day, he rests, he ceases. We also see in the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, how God gave the law to the Old Testament Jews. And in one of those laws was a Sabbath, was a ceasing. They were to work for 6 days, and then they were to stop on the seventh day, and they were just to stop and to worship and to experience life in community with each other. We also see rest in the New Testament too. Jesus himself, he would often withdraw to the scriptures talk about lonely places and pray. Jesus would often go off by himself, and sometimes his disciples were, where were you? And that's where he was, but Jesus too, he often told his disciples, you guys have been working hard. You need to rest, and finally, I think one of the most prominent places we see this is when Jesus is teaching, and he's teaching to people who are tired on the soul level. In Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, Jesus says, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And so we see that kind of deep soul rest that Jesus talks about there, but we also see this concept expressed in other ways, physically, emotionally, and spiritually too.
Yeah. So it can be kind of tricky though to discern, like, is, something like a good movie can be restful.
Yeah.
But binging entertainment for hours upon hours sometimes just leaves us feeling blah.
Yeah.
It's kind of that McDonald's again type rest. And you and I are wired differently.
We are, yeah.
It's restful for you to go run many miles. It is not restful for me to do that. But I have tried, I think we both have tried to really understand this about ourselves. What brings us rest at the soul level? What does it mean to stop and just cease and trust God with our time and our energy and our resources? And sometimes it's helpful to, define activities, but I was kind of thinking about the activities that really make me feel rested, and they kind of have a theme to them. So I thought I'd just kind of share with you, being in nature is very restful for me, especially if the sun is out. Movement is restful for me, but not so much that I'm sweating, running many miles, but just moving my body. And then also just not being connected to my phone. Those are really restful. So things like taking a hike in nature, or just a walk without my phone, or playing pickleball, those are things that I find to be restful. So as you kind of think about this, you might think about self-care, and that can be a part of this, but we're hoping today that in your Riv community with your people here, you can really talk about how has God wired me, and how can I trust him with my time and my energy to really take some time to just rest in this next season of life, and wherever he has me. What does that look like practically, and how can we really kind of start to define that through the lens of Scripture?
Yeah, and as followers of Jesus, we really think that what we do in Riv communities, opening the Word together, praying together, sharing our lives, those are restful things. And we love that we get to do that in community, but we also do that as individuals. And one of the blessings that we've experienced in our Riv community is just that blessing of accountability, of just, hey, I'm choosing to pursue health in a spiritual way when it comes to rest. Or I could really use some accountability in a couple of weeks when we come back together. Can you ask me how I'm doing when it comes to that? And so we'd really encourage you today with this content to go that far. After we've defined what we're talking about, we've discerned, make some decisions to pursue health and rest when it comes to your spiritual life and just your life in community today. So we hope that this content was helpful for you, and we wish you the best in your Riv community.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.